John Scott here with Jonathan Acosta. We're done here at St. John Fisher University. Only 7 practices that we were able to see up here, much shorter than our normal time up here in Pittsford. But you still, in short order, learned a lot of things. Let's just first knock off the biggest news of the day. Osiris Torrance, a 4-year contract extension reportedly worth over $78 million. This is Brandon Beane's mantra. They always seem to prioritize the offensive line. He's the next in line.
That's right. 2 philosophies, right, that come to mind. The Bills like to extend their own, and they like to really have that continuity on the offensive line. Let's think about that O-line for a sec. 5 positions, 4 of them are going to be the same, not just from last year, but even the year before that as well, right? The only change you have is at that left guard spot with Austin Corbett and Alec Anderson battling. But even Alec Anderson is a guy who has been on this team as well. At the other positions, Deion Dawkins, obviously a staple at left tackle. Spencer Brown, a staple at right tackle. Connor McGovern has been with this team. He's at center. Now Osiris Torrance, a guy who started every regular season game since he was drafted over the past 3 seasons. So remarkable consistency. The team used the word steady a lot when referring to Osiris Torrance. And I think something that speaks volumes is when other players on the team, other people in the organization are loud about how excited they are, how happy they are for a guy to get good news, to get rewarded with the contract. You saw it last summer with James Cook. You're seeing the same thing here today with Osiris Torrance, a guy who doesn't maybe say a whole lot, but he's a great team player, great in the locker room. People love him, and that's a big reason why they want to keep him here. And then, again, the philosophy of Brandon Beane, drafting his guys, the guys that develop into difference makers for this team, important pieces. He wants to extend them. We saw a flurry of those extensions last summer. Khalil Shakir, Greg Rousseau, Christian Benford, Terrell Bernard, then eventually James Cook getting done as well. Osiris Torrance falling within that same principle as well.
He has like a size 18 shoe, so I think a larger pocketbook is going to really help with him to bolster and stock up on shoes that are maybe far more difficult to find than my traditional 12 in there. All right, we're done here at St. John Fisher, as we said. Let's just start kind of going through the list of storylines and where things currently stand. Still very early here in the training camp, in the preseason. But let's just start at the top. The Josh Allen, DJ Moore connection. Literally, we've talked about it every single day. I think we've been out here, and rightfully so, because Moore, early, no pads and in pads, is living up to the hype.
Yeah, I think he looks absolutely like the real deal. And listen, this is not a guy that we're projecting, with Josh Allen, he's going to do things that we haven't seen so far him do in the NFL, because he's had 1,000-yard seasons in the NFL. He's done it in Carolina. He's done it in Chicago. Last year, a little bit of a down year. But the Bears had a good receiving core last year with DJ Moore and Rome Odunze and Luther Burden. Now he comes to Buffalo as the opportunity to be the guy. And I think something that stuck out today was something that Josh Allen said, that he just continues to be that guy, the guy that they thought that they were trading for when they got him from Chicago. He's come out onto the field and proven to be that sort of player. And the chemistry between them two was something that we were watching as we came here to Pittsford. It's something that we've seen really develop and in a significantly better place that we saw in the spring. Everyone is going to think about that 50-yard catch, the throw into triple coverage that DJ Moore comes down with. Josh Allen called it one of the best throws and catches that he's been a part of in his career. And think about the plays that he's been a part of in his career, right? So I think that goes to speak already to the way that the wide receiver and quarterback are gelling. Maybe that the confidence that they now go into this next part of camp and into the preseason with.
Let's stick at wide receiver, because everybody loves to talk about the pass catchers. We touched on it even just yesterday. Keon Coleman, it has not been the Keon Coleman camps of the past. I don't know if there's any particular reason for it. He hasn't been bad. He hasn't been great. It's kind of just been up and down, what we've become a bit accustomed to with Keon. Shakir's kind of over there. Skylar Bell has had his moments. Josh Palmer has had his moments. You kind of just see what that group is. It's kind of going to be those 5 guys. And outside of Moore, it's kind of just been like a random this person here, this person there. And I don't even know if that's a bad thing.
No, because I think DJ Moore comes in and he's your number one guy. And then Khalil Shakir is your maybe safety blanket for Josh Allen. And we have to think about Dalton Kincaid within this context too, right? Because he's a tight end, but in effect a large wide receiver. They use him a lot in the passing game. So you think that Moore, Kincaid, and Shakir are kind of going to be your top 3 guys, and then people fill in around them. I just don't see Keon Coleman being a big part of this passing attack this season. Maybe it ends up happening, and then when the season ends, we can sort of maybe discuss, this is what we thought was going to happen, here's how it actually played out. I just don't see it. I think more likely to be a factor in this is a healthy Josh Palmer, because Palmer looks healthy out there, and he's made some plays. He had a nice one today with Allen going to him down the seam. A 25, 30-yard gain goes up for a contested catch against D. Alford and comes down with it. And Josh Palmer, when he got injured last year, let's remember in that game against Atlanta, he was having a nice game. 2 big gains on catches before he got injured in the first half. It looked like he was starting to become more of a part of that offense. He was also being asked to do more, I think, last year than maybe the Bills are looking to ask of him this year. So if he can be your number 4 target in this passing attack and he's healthy, I think that's a very good sign and a very good place for this Bills offense to be.
Let's go to the offensive line. You mentioned continuity. The one spot is left guard, and I would say right now we've seen a pretty even split between Alec Anderson and Austin Corbett at the left guard spot. Nothing's really popped out. It's been like only a couple days in pads, which is when the evaluation truly begins. To me, as it stands right now, very early, it's Alec Anderson's job to lose at this point in time, and I've seen nothing, again, in just a few practices that would lead me to believe he's going to give it up.
Correct, although I don't think he has a stranglehold on that job either. And I think this is one of that's one of the positions where I think even more so than camp and being in pads, the preseason is going to have something to say about this, because that's when you're going up against another team, other pass rushers, the joint practice with Cleveland where we truly get to see them go up against a pretty good Browns defense. They traded away Myles Garrett, but they got back Jared Verse, who's pretty good in his own right. So I think those are the situations in which we're really going to learn more about this left guard battle, because, as you said, I think so far it's been very close, and something where Alec Anderson might have the lead right now. If he has a tough joint practice or if he has a tough preseason game, that can allow Austin Corbett to recover, or on the flip side, if Austin Corbett has a tough preseason game, that can allow Alec Anderson to extend his lead.
Been some tough times for the second unit on the Bills' offensive line. I like what I've seen from Tylen Grable. Cedric Van Prank-Granger, I think, is having a really nice bounce-back camp. But anyone else behind him, you got the rookie Jude Bowery, even Lloyd Cushenberry. I'm like, I don't. They got some work to do over there. Let's go over to the defensive side of things. Defensive line is another hot topic. The reconfiguration moving to a 3-4. You know what you're getting out of Ed Oliver. Deon Walker is back out there. But then there's that grouping of like the Dwayne Carters, the Landon Jacksons, the TJ Sanders, the young players who you don't really know what you have in them right now, either due to kind of a position change, a body change, lack of time on the field. And I don't think we have much a clear picture right now either.
And you can even throw in a guy like Michael Hoyt, who's not young, but he's coming off that injury, right? We've yet to see him play coming off and a significant injury in what's torn Achilles, right? Jim Leonard spoke highly of Michael Hoyt, saying he really knocked his rehab out of the park to even be in a position to partake in camp as much as he is, right? So those, again, we talk about just with the offensive line, there are just certain positions that you can make some takeaways from watching them in camp, but you really have to watch them in game action to really take a lot more away from. Although I will say there have been moments from a TJ Sanders, a Landon Jackson. You see just how much bigger Landon Jackson is specifically, right? Those are guys that maybe in a preseason game you're not as focused on watching DJ Moore because now you kind of know what you're going to expect from him. But guys like a Landon Jackson and TJ Sanders are like, hey, I'm really going to watch this guy on this given play. I'm going to really follow him because this is the situation where they can really make a name for themselves and really earn maybe a larger role on this team than maybe what we were expecting coming into the summer.
As we shift to preseason games, I would look at Dwayne Carter and Fedarian Mathis as someone that I think is getting more run than Carter. That's going to maybe be that final battle to round out the interior of the Bills' defensive line. You talked about pass rushers. Not seeing a whole lot because we're still not really there. Javon Solomon, he's a fringe guy for me right now. Let's go to middle linebacker here. They slowly brought along Terrell Bernard and Dorian Williams. We're now seeing them in 11-on-11 work, but their absence elevated a guy that we've talked about a lot in just a short amount of time, and that's Caleb Elarms-Orr. Jim Leonard saying, hey, there is going to be a role for all three of those guys. Who knows what that's going to look like? I still think there is a possibility, an outside shot, that if Williams certainly isn't available, but I'm not going to dismiss the idea that Elarms-Orr could find his way in a rotation or seeing some significant time early.
Well, also, the Bills are switching to a 3-4 scheme. That does not mean that they will be in a 3-4 100% of the snaps, right? So Elarms-Orr is sort of elevating and showing that he can truly play with the ones. What kind of doors does that open in terms of a 3-linebacker package that Jim Leonard wants to utilize, right? You get the feeling from Leonard and hearing him speak and the players speak. He's going to be aggressive. He's going to be creative. And I think he's going to focus a lot on having his best players, his most dynamic players on the field in positions to create chaos for the offense. So if he feels that Caleb Elamzor is that kind of guy, he's going to find a way to get him on the field, even if it means taking off a defensive lineman or going with only 4 defensive backs, right? So that's something that I think is exciting to watch, to see what kind of ways does Jim Leonhard envision using these different linebackers, because Terrell Bernard has his skill set, Dorian Williams has his skill set, kind of that downhill thumper, fast, aggressive guy, and Caleb Elamzor, I think, sort of fits maybe between the two, right, where he covers space very well, but he also has that dog mentality. Joe Brady said today he can't get the guy to smile, but that was an aspect of him that he said that he loves. He said he even remembers in his top 30 visit that he thinks that Caleb Elamzor was mad during it and not smiling it during either. So at that position, that's the sort of mentality that you want. So again, I think the Bills feel very comfortable, at least at this point, especially if Dorian Williams is healthy come week 1, with having those 3 guys as their top 3 guys.
At corner, I think we had a miscalculation. There is not a competition between Maxwell Harrison and Davison Igbinosun to start alongside Christian Benford. Hairston getting nearly all of the reps with the first team. He is dealing with an injury currently, missed practice on Friday. Joe Brady's saying it's not a big deal. They're kind of just being precautious with him. This is giving Igbinosun some more time. To me, the more interesting thing at corner is not the battle between those two. It's what they do beyond those top 3. Because when I was doing my 53-man roster, Toriano Pride, another rookie, is someone you think, is he the 4th guy? That's a lot to put on a low-round pick rookie. There's also times where I've seen them shift D. Alford to the outside, and maybe with some versatility, they say we can just go with 3 and have Alford be our kind of hybrid going inside and out. It's still so early, but as you start to put the pieces together, just something to watch in that secondary.
You even have an undrafted guy like a Kanai Walker coming in and making splash plays too. So we talked about offensive line. We talked about defensive line. In terms of the preseason, the depth cornerback battle is going to be a big one, because you're kind of watching to see, all right, who goes in first, who's playing in the first half, who's still out there on the field in the 4th quarter, right? Because they won't always tell you how guys stack up on the depth chart, but their actions, especially in preseason games, of who's playing late, speaks volumes. So that's going to be something where, as we watch the 1st, 2nd, and certainly into the 3rd game, if a guy is still playing in the 3rd and 4th quarter, it probably goes to show you that his chances of making the 53-man roster are not very high.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson back in his absence. We saw a decent, pretty even rotation between DeMar Hamlin and Geno Stone, so maybe DeMar Hamlin is someone that has more of a leash to make this team than maybe I initially thought. They like Jalen Kilgore. He's kind of a jack of all trades that they can play in a bunch of places. So that kind of rounds out the defensive side of things.
And it puts in, because there has to be someone that goes at safety, right? You can't keep all of these guys. So if it's going to be a Geno Stone and you're going to keep a DeMar Hamlin and you really like a Jalen Kilgore, what does that mean for a guy like Jordan Hancock, right? Because he's a guy with positional versatility as well. But again, it's hard to imagine a scenario just because of the numbers and the bodies you need to keep at other positions where they keep everyone. So who is able to stand out? We thought maybe when C.J. Gardner-Johnson went down, we were like, okay, maybe this is one of those situations where an injury helps a position group sort itself out. Now that he's healthy and back out on the field, it's going to create an interesting to watch competition, again, with all of these guys battling, maybe in a musical chair situation where one guy has to be the odd man out.
We'll have one final thing on defense. Von Miller doing what Von Miller does, putting out cryptic things on social media to make you think, is something going to happen? It was DeAndre Hopkins or OBJ, or the list goes on. And now it's him, a free agent, posting pictures on his Instagram story in a Bills uniform with the quote, caption, unfinished business. Brandon Beane asked about it today, saying, I talk to Von all the time, we're buddies, but nothing is imminent. I would love to bring him and a bunch of other guys back if everything aligns. The question is more for us, should they even consider, or what would Von Miller bring to this team?
Well, he brings, obviously, the veteran experience, right? And he has that experience as an outside linebacker in a 3-4 defense. So there is that. But I just think of the guys that are already on this team, right? You have Greg Rousseau and Bradley Chubb are your unquestioned starters as the 2 outside linebackers. Your highest draft pick was T.J. Parker early in the 2nd round. You've liked what you've seen out of him as well. You have a Michael Hoyt who brings positional versatility as well. Javon Solomon, who is a later round draft pick from a couple years ago, they're high on him as well. So if you're bringing in Von Miller, I don't think you're bringing him in with the thought in mind, hey, we might just cut him at the end of the preseason
No.
anyways, right? If you're bringing him in, it's because he's going to be one of the 53 on the roster. So who are you cutting and why? And how much more juice does he have? He was somewhat productive in Washington, right? But he wasn't a difference maker, and he certainly wasn't a difference maker his last few years here in Buffalo as well. So I think a lot of this offseason has been about turning a new page somewhat from Sean McDermott to Joe Brady being the head coach, turning a new page to a new scheme under Jim Leonard. And I just feel like bringing back Von Miller kind of goes against that sense of starting anew. And so I think even if Von Miller wants to be back in Buffalo, now if there's an injury, that can change things. But I think absent an injury, it's hard for me to see the reasoning for bringing back Von Miller to the Bills.
There's no room. Like you said, you laid it out perfectly. There's absolutely no room. Even if you're going to go to that versatility with 3 linebackers at different time, dime, nickel, all this stuff, there's no room for him to be out there. That doesn't even take into account what sort of player he is at this stage of his career. Outside of an injury, I will say it absolutely is not going to happen. We will end on this. We're done here. Our next thing is inside the new Highmark Stadium Saturday evening for the return of the blue and red scrimmage. I have not been in there at all. I was on vacation for the first little tour. My son was born about a week or so before the ribbon cutting was done. So you've been in there a little bit. I haven't at all. But even after being in there for a brief period, what are you looking forward to?
I'm just looking to see what it's like with people in the stadium, both the players on the field and the fans in the stands, right? Because ultimately, those are the things that give a stadium its life, its environment, its ambiance. You can have these beautiful stadiums, state of the art, but there are certain stadiums that just have a culture, a feel, to use a word that, like an aura to them, right? And so we have to wait to see what this new Highmark Stadium feels like, because the old one, even though it was old, not modern by any means, there was a certain feel within it that both Bills players and opposing players talked about feeling when they stepped inside that stadium. Now, is the environment Saturday night going to be the same as for a regular season game? It is absolutely not. But there's still going to be that buzz of it being the first event in this new stadium. So I just kind of want to see the look on people's faces when they step in. It's that look of awe when they're looking around at the field, at the stands, at the canopy, right, of the roof, just taking everything in for the first time. I want to see the reaction on people's faces, because from the tour we were able to get at the ribbon cutting ceremony, it's a state-of-the-art facility. It looks like a modern European soccer stadium that you'd see in Madrid or London or Milan or one of these big-name European cities. And it's in Orchard Park, New York. So it's an interesting dynamic. And again, I'm just ready to see how people react when they step inside.
I'm going to set the over-under for me of 2.5 times they get lost, because I've never been in there, and we'll see how it goes. I'm just excited for everything, because like I said, I haven't been in. I'm sure a lot of you were like that, whether you're coming to the practice, the other practice, the preseason, at any moment. It's just going to be a really cool new experience that really, we've been at a bunch of stadiums, so we've had this experience, but for it to be the home base is going to be super cool. So that'll do it here. From Pittsford, we went to the dairy farm a couple times, so we knocked off the list.
Had to, at least once. That's one of the things you have to check off the list when you come to Pittsford. Did it once, but I think once is more than enough.
Well, I did it twice, so I guess I'll be doing extra laps here before we leave. With Jonathan Acosta, I'm John Scott for Channel 2 Sports.